Just checking, can people hear the audio?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Judy is working on getting in at the town hall end. She'll be hopefully just a moment. There you go. We've got you. You're muted.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:06. Thanks for that, Arian. Okay, we do a roll call. Angie DeSantos.
Here I am.
Woo.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. John Kobeck,
Here.
Paul Varga,
Here.
Garth Bean,
Yes.
Jesse Burnham,
Here.
Esther Jagodzinski, Hugh McKenzie. Gil,
He's there.
yes, thanks.
Yes, we're back. There is the third title.
Okay, I see. Okay. Gil? You're my answer then. Christina Davis
Here.
and Judith Austin. Full board. No. Communications. I haven't got anything from last time except what we got tonight and. Did you send me anything? I have no communications to share.
Sent you different stuff that might be particularly under correspondence.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share for communications? Okay, moving on. Public comments. Got 3 minutes to speak. Anybody have any public comments? So the approval of the minutes for Thursday, March 9th. I think I'm gonna hold off on those because Valerie wanted to verify them by video and she's not here. So if you guys don't mind, we'll do it the next meeting.
Yes, I'm here.
There she is. She's right there.
You scared me. Did you get a chance to look at the minutes?
I wrote the minutes, I've looked at, I mean, why don't you just go ahead? I wrote them a while ago.
I know, but you wanted to, last time I spoke to you, you wanted to verify them by video, and the video.
Well, I
you
must
didn't-
have, I must have done that, otherwise I wouldn't have sent them in.
Okay, okay, thank you.
All right.
All right. We'll go to the minutes. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from March 9th, 2023?
So I don't,
Who was that? Who was that?
That was Andy.
I don't see them posted on our town website. So I don't know, were they distributed? For March 9th?
That's what I was just looking for. I don't remember reading them here, so.
Let's see. Let's see. Maybe. Okay, we're gonna postpone them till next week.
Okay.
We're gonna postpone it, Valerie, till the next meeting.
Okay.
Nothing to do with her.
Nothing to do with you. Okay, new business, selectmen's update.
You want me to talk about the budget?
You can talk about anything you want to talk about.
Okay.
You're the selectman.
Oh, thank you. Put this right down at the phone with my papers. I made our presentation to you at your last night meeting. And, the Board of Selectmen at that time recommended a total budget of, $3,845,804. Since that, just received today, and my fellow selectmen haven't seen that other than I think Catherine got a copy of it tonight. Our treasurer did a self audit. We got a couple of extra revenues that hadn't been calculated in, and we noticed there were a couple of line items that had been omitted. So the actual new figure is $3,859,250. The last increase reflected a 0.11 increase. The new figure is a 0.46 increase.
What do you mean 0.46 from last year? 0.46%. From last year,
Increase in last.
from last year.
Yeah.
So that percent or 0.46?
What's that? Point four six. Point four six.
That's what I have. People do wish.
That's kind of the news of the night. Judy, I don't know if you wanted me to talk about CNR now or later in your agenda.
Well, I just have a question for this 0.46. Do we know what was the increase exactly?
The salary adjustment that I had talked to you about, but it had been omitted from the last budget, was the increase for the social service director. It was not put in. And what was the other thing, Carrie?
Okay, the couple of items that were added was, there's a position here for a person that takes care of the website here. She receives
$2,600.
$2,600 for that. There was the, I adjusted the cyber insurance, that was at 11,000. It was decreased down now to $6,600. The other items that were addressed was the transfers out of the general fund to your other funds, which is your youth services, your dog fund, your fire department, library, and recreation. So I had received revenue information from them, so I had to update those numbers, because if you see in your last handouts, they were highlighted in yellow. So those were things that still needed to be addressed. So I received that information from them and adjusted those figures as to what we need to move from the general fund to help pay for their budget, for their expenses.
Excuse me, is that Ms. Souze?
Yes.
Because you can hardly see the people, they're just very tiny on the screen, but I assumed that's who it was.
We're tiny people anyway.
So I have sort of a question. So this is Angie asking a question. Are you going to talk about how much money we saved on no snow plows? Very few snow plows?
You mean for this year?
In other words, we have money for next year because we didn't use a lot of snow plows.
We have not finished the season.
That's true.
We're assuming on that there may be some pluses in certain areas. We were feeling real good until the last two ice storms we had.
Okay,
So that's still being evaluated.
okay.
Nor'easter next week. We're talking about it.
Really?
Yes.
I was hoping you were kidding.
No.
Not over yet.
Okay, does anybody have any more questions at this point? We'll continue.
Do you want to talk about CNR?
Go ahead.
Okay. In our drafts that we gave you on the recommendations that the CNR committee made to the Board of Selectmen. And we had kind of validated that before, but asked for their additional review and recommendation, which they made unanimously. The appropriation with everything included, we're recommending is $355,945. Presently in CNR, you have $275,000 with uncommitted or unspent money. The Board of Selectmen has recommended that, or asked that the Board of Finance consider, depending who you talk to, but undesignated fund balance right now, we're advised is between 13.6% or 14.3%, depending on how you calculate it right now in undesignated funds over what the total budget was. I believe your goal last year was to maintain 11.5% in that fund. So the Board of Selectmen has reviewed and we confirmed with our treasurer. If you go to 12% of existing funds, you can contribute $289,956. If you consider going to 11%, you would add to the CNR fund by $346,773. You know, one of the things our challenges is year to year is try to maintain monies in those in the recurring fund balance. The CNR, and we think that that would be a good contribution towards the next year if you did do those adjustments, plus being able to finance the difference between the 275 and the roughly 355 that's being recommended for this year.
Can I ask a question? That 275 though, that's what's in the fund after all allocations would be spent from this year.
That's our understanding. There's a little more money in there, but there are two lease payments.
Right.
So those are
That's
either
what I'm saying, that will be
unspent,
left.
unspent or uncommitted.
Have we gotten any feedback from the financial advisor as to what the threshold would be for the bond rating?
Well, it depends. Right now, we're using Moody's. They're recommending we go with SMA. In the future, Moody's, believe it or not, asked for a 29% increase is their high number. As an average, 10 to 15% is usually considered. S and A is between 11 and 15%. He feels if we make those adjustments, it will not jeopardize or hurt our existing credit rating. The more you have in there, the more apt that you are possibility of increasing your credit rating. We've got good credit rating right now. He feels that he can at least minimize that and try for better. The more you decrease it, the more you decrease your possibility of getting an increase in your ratings.
Outside of the rating itself, is there a does the percentage have a direct impact on the interest rate on the bond?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, in the big picture, it's looked at as undesignated funds overall in a general form. These are like a sub definition within that for CNR.
Can I ask a question? So the document that I'm looking at that says.
Excuse me. Could people that are speaking, please say who they are?
So
Sure.
Christina's speaking at the moment, Valerie.
So the and I'm gonna speak loudly, not because any, yeah, you know. So for the 23-24 capital projects document that I'm looking at, says draft 3/16/23. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the latest one that was handed out is 317.
Okay, that's maybe why the number is different. So the number for CNR on the version I'm looking at is 330,945. So now it's 355. Okay, but then you just said a bunch of other numbers, so I'm confused. So this says 355,945
Correct.
for CNR.
Which is the total amount to accommodate what we're recommending included in this year's budget. Under CNR.
Right. And then the transfer amount that you're asking for.
We have 275 in the fund right now. If you take the existing designated fund balance, which is, let's say it's 14.3, which is the last figure I got from the auditors. And you reduce that to 12%. That would account for $289,956. If you went to 11%, you'd be contributing into CNR $346,773, leaving a couple $100,000 in CNR for next year, which is the goal of our, well, and your commission to maintain that as best we can, you know, in ongoing years.
So again, just because this is hard to absorb. So there's 275,000 in CNR right now.
Correct.
And so we need to up that. And
Yes,
now the question is, by how much will we up it?
correct.
Got it.
And that's to be determined by your board.
Got it.
I was just gonna say, last year we did 11 point, that's all, by the way, Valerie. Last year we did 11.5.
If I remember right, the idea was to give you a little buffer.
Right, so we had a buffer both of it, yes. Plus, something that we talked about before, and Catherine mentioned, I think at the last meeting. CNR also protects our funds,
Yes,
which is very important.
protection when in the event of a loss.
Well, that's one protection and one benefit of it. And
Right.
These expenditures don't directly affect your millage.
Correct.
Which is one of the luxuries.
And one more thing, you can always take
Always
money from
go, yeah.
CFR and put it back in the undesignated fund. Should you need it.
Any other questions? Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
The only other thing I might mention was in here, in our calculations. The Board of Ed has made a request for their 1% fund. I believe Cindy, the figure is 85,000. And at their last meeting, because Cindy had represented those figures, but at their last Board of Ed meeting, they validated a willingness to designate 60,000 of that towards a couple of the items that are on our list here. One of them is the new fire alarm system at the school, and the other is the upgrade of the generator and putting in an automated system. And the other contributing amount to that is that we reported as a loss when the last one exploded, and Hartford Steam Boil, through our insurance carriers, approved to pay for that. So we've got a check in hand already of 75,000 plus for that.
And there will be an additional for some, for the, so this is Cindy Ford. There will be an additional amount from our insurance company for installation. So in the original that came to us is
Yeah.
just for the generator,
Itself not installed.
not the install. So we just generated a new quote and gave it to our insurance company to reimburse the installation.
And the other thing that they've also agreed to pay and already paid part of it is the rental fees that we're experiencing for the unit that's running right now. And also manpower that the school has had to dedicate to get that one in place and everything. So we've been treated very well by the Hartford Steam Boiler.
Josh?
That's
No, Sherry, I have a question. The youth service director in the budget that we got on 3/2/23. It looks like that 17,000 was there from what I can tell. I'm not sure, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing.
That was there, but the revenues was not correct, so I needed to take what revenues to take off of. To offset, and then the difference needs to be transferred in from the general fund to support this budget. That was a different, you need to look at the other page on the transfer in on the general budget. That number changed. Which would be, I think it's the last page of the general government budget. Yeah. Page 59, I think. Am I going too far? 38, 59 is all the pages. Yeah. 43, page 43. So those numbers had to be updated because I did not have all the revenues, the last one. So basically this 59,305, I think it was 40 something in your last handout. 1,040. That had to be adjusted. And also on that page, where also got adjusted was the recreation, because I had the updated revenue number from Terry York. So, I had to update the money said it's going into her fund to support her budget. Also on that same page.
Can I ask a question about the recreation budget?
Go ahead, it's Christina Valerie.
So does this recreation budget expenditures and revenues take into account the after-school daycare program? Proposed. Is
No,
that in here?
no, it does not.
Does not.
We've asked that that be put into its own line item. And we just put $10 in there. The intent of that program is that it will be self-financing based on tuitions.
If we won't have.
If it goes ahead, we wanted to at least have a department designated for that. Originally, it was in the recreation. We've asked the treasurer to pull it out.
Okay. And so when do we expect to make a decision about that?
We're working on it. You know, there's a bit of a misconception that there are people that think that's a responsibility for the Board of Selectmen, and it's not. But it's one of the things that we recognize that there is need there, and we are doing diligence on it. But as I told a number of people, East Con gave it up after doing it a number of years. We had an affiliate of the YMCA in Vernon that did it the last time for us. They both gave them up. I spoke to their administrators to see if they considered taking it back, and neither one of them will even consider it because the labor situation that they are right now is one of the biggest problems that they have, being able to live up to their responsibilities with that. So our board is taking it very seriously. It's a very big responsibility for anybody to take on board. And we're working on it. It's just one of these things that unfortunately we have to put time into and make sure everybody is aware of the responsibilities and what's involved in them.
Responsibilities and risk.
So, what's the selectmen's budget? We're saying it's going up. What again?
0.45, I believe. is the figure here.
0.45. So originally.
0.46. Excuse me.
0.46. Okay, so originally we had said that it was 0.11, but in reality, it's gone up like almost the depth that we had for 200 and something dollars. Excuse me, $200,000 plus the 43 that was left over last year. We're absorbing all this money into the selectmen's budget. So the concern is next year, the amount that we're putting into this year with all the additional things we're adding, we're taking away that depth money that we would have not had next year, and we're adding it to the future, right?
And
So you take-
actuality, next year, we're not anticipating the debt service go up much more than it is right now. The following year in 25 and 26, when the bond for the school kicks in,
Yes,
there will obviously be increases in that. I don't know if they're gonna be that much of a difference,
so
because
if
we
we,
haven't done any financing yet on that yet.
if we use that 200 into this budget here. And then you have the school next year in Region 19, and then additional, general budget. We're talking about like a pretty good mill rate. Like close to 2.5, 3.
I don't wanna guess on that right now. I don't think we've looked at that. I've talked to our treasurer briefly, and if we were to project, and we don't usually project 1 or 2 years out because there are too many unknowns, but we're possibly looking at a 1.5, but not knowing what the school's gonna be putting in, or Region 19, whatever. That's, at best, that's a guesstimate. Either high or low on that.
Yeah. Well, I get that, but we usually run about 4% for Ashford School, and then we'll probably have the same next year for E.L. Smith.
4% is what it's been the past 2 years. Normally, it is not that at the Ashford School.
Right.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions?
Do you have a question? This is Paul. Sherry, on the cover page of the packet you pass out today, the staff for evening, you've got the total town budget of the 3.85 million or 86 million, and then the estimated revenues. What do those revenues represent?
Look on your third page in your,
Okay, so
basically, so that'll be your state, some of your state and some of the local, which is generated here in town hall, for,
deeds and.
deeds, recordings, pistol permits and things. And I take out the ECS money and I attribute that to the schools, which you'll see in the next line.
Now, so going down the line,
And
school budget and their estimated revenues, that is.
that ECS money. At 3,332,000. And then you have your Region 19 and your abatements for your fire department.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Kristen.
This is Christina. How firm are the revenue numbers? Do we know from the state, or is it a guesstimate?
Guesstimate, this
They're
is,
based on the governor's proposal, I believe, right, Sheriff?
that would be correct, and this is the first numbers that have come out. It's been very quiet as far as us receiving the revenues. So this is the very first number, and it's a
Could be
guesstimate.
close or not? I don't know.
That's
I
correct.
understand from a couple of people I've talked to with CCM, that there's a lot of behind closed doors discussions going on, particularly about ECS.
And then one other question on this first page, the Region 19 total is different than what I last saw, so did they send out an updated number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, because before it was like a 6% increase and now it's down to 5.
6.2 and now it's at 5.1.
Is there a sense that that might go a little bit lower, or is that probably gonna be where you land?
Invariably, it goes lower after they've had their hearing.
Okay,
The Region 19 is always, well, historically, has been very good at beating that number down.
and then the last piece is the grand list. Do we have a final number on the grand list?
Board of Assessment Appeals met, I believe, last night. I had not heard of, but they didn't feel it was gonna be much of an impact. When I talked to the assessor, she's extremely strong on the grand list as it's to minor adjustments. And if I recall, the additional funding for the 0.99 to 0.98% increase in the grand list equated to about $98,000 or $98,000.
Right, Sharon, is this a number from Region 19 from Sharon? That I thought-
That is correct.
I have a question on the school budget totals and estimated revenues. As it stands now, there's a $300,981 increase on the school budget total. But there's also a decrease in revenue from ECS in the amount of $126,480. So the town has to pick up that difference, and that's why the total raised by taxes for that is $427,461, correct? So the reduction in the ECS, is that because we've dropped a student that qualified for that, or is that just a reduction in the formula so the state is sticking it to us?
I'm gonna turn that to the Board of Ed, to the superintendent or business manager.
The ECS is not a per pupil number, it's for the entire school district.
Right.
It's not the excess cost grant, which is also called ECS, which is based on
Oh,
the number
okay.
of students. So they use the same, they call it, both of them ECS, so it's
Right.
confusing.
Mhm.
Sorry, Angie, it's Dina. It's confusing, but they're two separate.
So this ECS is from what then? From us, the state perspective, what does this acronym actually stand for?
It's
Not
still
stand for,
called
but function.
excess cost grant.
Right,
It's
But
the
it's just
same
different.
as the other one. They state didn't name them two different things.
this is what the state gives us towards the total we spend on
Right,
education.
education cost sharing is another.
Right,
way.
right, yeah, okay. This does not impact NBR though, correct?
MBR is the appropriation.
Right,
It's your bottom line appropriation. It has
Right.
nothing to do with your ECS funding. It's the amount of money that the town allocates for the
Right.
school.
so the 300,000 change is in the realm of minimum budget, but us picking up what the state is not giving us in the excess cost is not part of MBR.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. That was John, by the way. Was there any reason given for that from the state? I don't remember it fluctuating this much typically in a year, other than when they decide which districts have enough money that we can give them less. Yeah, fantastic.
You'll be real surprised, but the bigger municipalities got a bigger percentage
Reduction or increase?
increase.
Yeah, of course.
Shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in that sweet spot.
Follow-up question on the revenue, but on the town side. We're projecting the revenues to go up from 673 to 804, so that's Where is that extra 200 coming from?
All right. There's some in prior taxes. The amount is also in interest on investments. That has, the town right now has, 3 point something percent. I'm not, don't quote me on the percent, but we are earning a lot more money than what we did last year, because last year, this current year, Cedar going 13,000 that we budgeted based on interest rates that were at 0.1. So that there's a big amount there. The what's the other one?
Sherry, is that where we find the additional funding from the grant list?
No,
No.
you also have here monies that the state is giving, which is the municipal revenue sharing and the municipal grants and aid, which is new monies that the state decided that it's a pot and they distribute money to the different towns. So that was something that was not budgeted for you last year. And that is something that we're gonna get for the next couple of years. So that's where your difference is, because one is 44,498 and the other one is 84,237.
Because it's almost like the town side revenue increase almost perfectly balances out the school side revenue decreases. Or
And let's see. Your biggest is of the two grants, the two new funding pots that the state is giving to the towns.
So they take with one hand and give it to the other.
That's correct. It gets shuffled around.
All right, so what is a mill at this point in dollars?
The last figure that I got from Sherry was, for last year, it was 359, 182, 36. We anticipate this year will be 361, 249, 33. Has that varied at all with the adjustments we made, Sherry?
I have not gotten the adjustments yet from Lynn, because again, we're just finishing up their meeting, so that will get adjusted. It probably won't impact it enough,
It's gonna be pretty close.
so it's.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
The new one,
Yeah, please.
361.
Yeah.
249 and 33 cents.
So as everything stands right now, less the increase in the grand lists, what would, as this stand, be for a mill rate increase?
$1.1.
So it'd be about 33. No,
Be 33.37.
Yeah.
So last year's was 32.27.
Yes. Well, it was 32.265 and in it rounds up.
Yeah.
32.2.
The overall mill rate was reduced last year, you were because of the rebound.
Right. So if I just do the straight calculation here of The delta is $492,230 in monies additional for budgeting this year. At 1 mil at the $361,000 figure. The difference between what that direct calculation would be and the 1.1 mil is because of the grand list growth. 100%, okay.
And the fire department maintenance comes into play, right?
That's always been.
Yeah, but that's why that 1 mil equals number is not, that gives you a general idea, but it's not an exact calculation.
The next bond that comes out for the school for, we're required to do HVAC upgrades or something, right? Is there something tied to HVAC?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry,
The bond that we're doing is.
no, the next bond, after the roof, there was another set of projects.
Windows.
There's windows, there's solar panels, there's whatever, but I thought there was something tied to HVAC upgrades that the federal government was requiring us to do or something?
Nothing set in stone right now.
Okay.
Depending on the amount, if we're talking. The main thing we're looking at and what the building committee is calling phase 2 is a window replacement. And as a result of the window replacement, we're gonna be having to do some abatements. Those are kind of the unknown figures. Depending on how broad those renovations end up being, then it could fall into question whether you have to bring those areas of the building that have been addressed up to ADA. And along with that, improve HVAC. Those are unknown figures or needs at this time. Potential is there.
All right.
As far as I'm told, and it's because there's an energy contract been signed. Marion Matthews could probably bring you up to date on that better than I can, but we don't anticipate any outlay by the town for the solar panels.
Isn't there another factor in this? With the bonding that we're doing for the school, for the roof, we're supposed to get 61%.
It's up to, it was 62 and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they just went up to 63, 65%.
So once that project is finished, that's when we receive the money from the state, correct?
Correct.
And
Well, we have to do the repairs. For instance, we're gonna be starting in June, the tank replacement. It's a smaller one, maybe a little easier conceptually. We're gonna get 65% of those costs back, but we will not get it back till the project is completed. I assume the window and the other things are coming
I
up.
wasn't thinking about the windows, I was just thinking about the effect on the bond costs. Okay, so we can have a bump for a bit, but then that bump is gonna go down, no, and we'll see what happens with these other projects. And also what the reimbursement will be for those other projects.
Is the reimbursement locked in by the state once the project starts, or is it at the mercy of whenever the project
That I
finishes?
don't know. One would hope that it would be locked
Because these
in
numbers are
whenever
bouncing
you
all
do the
over the place
project,
at the state.
because you wouldn't be necessarily pursuing the project and with that idea.
Yeah, Cindy, I'm not sure if you or I will be signing a contract, but I believe once we are going to initiate the contract, we'll lock in that whatever percentage we're at the time.
Yes, so you usually know before you go forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as that locks it in, because, the
Yeah.
state bounces these numbers
Right,
all over. the place.
because in 3 years, who knows?
Right, right.
Yeah.
There's a misconception with all of the projects that we've got proposed for the school. Why don't we just build a new school?
No.
I mean, one of the things, we would never be able to build a new school because of the school population, the size of what we have now.
Yeah.
You'd be compromising the gym, cafeteria areas, all of those. The other thing, while the reimbursement from the state for repairs like we're doing is 65%. For a new school, it's at 35% reimbursement.
Yeah.
Wellington has a comparable grammar school population to ours. Their new school, project is going ahead. Last I heard, it could have changed from them, $63 million. So when you look at it that way, there's no comparison between the potential cost of the town doing repairs and building a new school.
Well, I'm all for renovating. I hate building new.
Any other questions, guys?
The next revow is only 4 years, right?
We've been put on notice that unfortunately we've left out, we're among the few towns that are going to do a 4-year cycle this time as opposed to a 5.
So we've just completed year 1 in the cycle.
Correct.
Next year, the budget we're looking at now will be year 2. Year 3 will be the year that the bond hits.
Correct.
And year 4 will still be on the current reval, but the following year, that they'll be redoing the reval that year, I assume. And the following year is when that'll kick in. Okay.
Because of the economy and where it was, we couldn't have worse timing.
Right.
Having to do the reval this time.
Mhm.
And that was mandatory.
Yeah. So what was the bulk of the increase in the grand list from?
I'm not sure, I haven't seen an updated list on new housing contract, people do have several new homes that were built, I can imagine that contributed. I bought some new cars. That'll help. There was a major improvements done at the Briar Lake Campground with new campsites and that, I'm sure that did. They've been doing a rip roaring business there.
Yeah.
A lot of their trailers are on that list now, we're on it. That's gotta be part of it, John. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, okay.
I haven't got a bottom figure from the assessor yet, but based on the minimum numbers that are going for the BA agency, and for perception, that grand list may go up a little bit. Not a lot, fraction of a point or so. Unfortunately, I also had several conversations with our insurance carrier this week. As you know, we've got 20% in the budget, and I was hoping to hear like we have in years past. It comes in, she's telling me that's unlikely in this case.
That's gonna be higher?
20%, it's not gonna, probably won't go any lower than that.
Oh.
20%, I don't know.
As a ballpark, do we know how competitive our mill rate is with our surrounding towns?
We're a bit higher than that.
One of two. Minus.
We actually have less to work with than the head counts.
Yeah,
Well, and as you know, our breakdown, the formula is 93% of our tax dollar is on the property taxpayer down.
right.
17% is,
7%.
excuse me, 7% is.
Yeah.
The first, sorry. That's low for the area.
Right.
Wellington is about 81, 19%.
But they don't have a happy home.
Well,
We're going on $63 million.
Yeah.
It's not,
It hasn't been approved yet. They may not.
Yeah, I just saw a billboard on 74 tonight on that.
Did you really? I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah, I got signs everywhere.
Just as an FYI, I compiled the equalized mill rates across several towns. So Ashford's equalized mill rate is 22.46. Wellington's is 21.26. Mansfield is 21.63. So we're in the neighborhood.
Equalized town.
equalize means they take the mill, because it's hard to compare apples to apples. Because we're all in different cycles in terms of revals. And so the equalize tries to make everybody on the same footing. Because if you just look at random mill rates, you can think that some places way more expensive, but because the property values are so much lower, right? If you go to Hartford and et cetera. So anyway, so we're in the same ballpark as at Willington and Mansfield. Andover's at 23, so they're a little bit higher. Chaplin's 22, they're about the same. Columbia's at 18, they're a bit lower. Eastford's at 17, they're quite a bit lower. Union's at 21. So small towns without a big tax base, we're in the same neighborhood.
But that's to whose perspective? Because what I'm thinking is to attract business to town to help with our percentages and to help to relieve some of the tax burden. The only thing that matters is that mill rate. Does equalize is irrelevant because everything they do and everything they own and everything they use is taxed at that mill rate. So when I'm curious about how competitive we are is that may make the difference between any business wanting to come to town and not, because 1 mile up the road can be the difference of a huge amount of taxes, depending on what.
Why
size
do you
the
think
business
the
is.
warehouse went to Wellington first and then to Ashford second?
Well,
That's why.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's the same concept, that's all she's trying to say.
That's not even close.
I mean, one of the things that it's difficult in comparing mill rates between towns is because what a mill equals here is quite different from what it.
right,
That's the biggest.
yes,
And, you know, things that apply to that is reval and a lot of other different circumstances that aren't apparent if you just look at mill rates.
But
We could also, I'm sorry.
to John's point though, as a business owner, if I'm looking to put a business somewhere, big or small, one of the things that is considered is what is the current mill rate in that town? Because, as he said, everything that business owns, inventory, et cetera, is taxed at that mill.
Yeah.
So if the business comes into town, it may have an effect on the mill rate because the grand list will go up. So that mill rate may slide down a little bit, but at the same time, they have to consider, if I move into a town that has a lower mill rate to begin with, I'm already better off. Provided the town is conductive to business and the type of business they're doing. But that is an important factor in the big picture. You know, people ask all the time why we don't have businesses in town, and that is one of the reasons.
I think location is a factor as well.
Depends on
There
where
are
the
no
business
small
is.
factors.
Right,
for retail, absolutely, because
Right.
the retail is death out here.
right.
Yes, I'm trying to weigh this out as far as I can. You know, just rough numbers, because, you know, we know what, you know, taking a shot at what insurance is gonna look like and salaries and benefits and all that kind of stuff, and what years hit for increases and decreases at E.O. Smith, and how that offsets this stuff, and then the reval comes in, and so trying to, plus the bond, trying to figure out where this is gonna shuffle things is really where I'm trying to get an idea so that we don't end up in a situation where we get out of control on the mill rate.
Can I add something, Madam Chair? When we look at the Region 19 figures, okay, that's about $180,000. And we have more kids going to school, therefore we should pay the money. And that's something, I don't want to say it's not in our control, it is to a degree, but if we have more kids going to that school, then we are obligated to pay for them to go. Right. But that's $180,000 of this. And to me, there's a little bit of a pay as you go, so to speak, in that aspect of it. You know, I really hadn't thought about that that much in the past, but that is a factor.
I'm not sure I understand pay as you go. I'm not sure.
Well, the thing is, we're in what we have an expression called being in the barrel when it comes to EO Smith. We have more students going. And so proportionately, we have a bigger piece of the pie, right? One piece of the expense. So, yeah, this town has more students going there, therefore, of course, we should pay more. And I just wanted to point that out. It's not something, you know, you kind of look at it and go, well, okay, where can we cut everywhere else? That doesn't maintain your town. If you go too far. And the thing is, we're literally obligated to pay. So.
Some years it works in our favor.
I'm sorry.
Some years it works in our favor because we have less students going one year than the next. And that's what I'm looking at their projections and I'm trying to figure out what years the increases hit,
Yep.
what years the decrease offsets this.
You're doing
That's why
right.
I'm trying to.
You're doing.
Just one of the things that I've been surprised how accurate they are. Cindy might be able to address it better than I can. Are the student population projections. As close as the State Board of Ed is on it, it's very surprising how they do that. I'm sure it's scientific, but now what I have heard when we were talking about a 6.2% just last week with EO Smith, I understand they were projecting our share was going to be 6.9 next year, which usually is better than about being in the barrel. And not really, we're in the barrel once and then with the other.
We're going over the fall.
It sounds like that barrel's got to get a little smaller, a little bigger this time.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's based on, whether it's the student enrollment projection for next year, but I was surprised to look at the 2-year projection that high.
Yeah.
Cindy, do you have an idea how many students will be leaving? For what school?
To EO Smith
Yeah, to your Smith or Wyndham Tech or.
next year. I don't have anything
Our numbers.
for 8th grade, moving on.
We can tell you, well, we can tell you the whole amount, who goes to technical school or that's will be determined
No,
next
just to
year.
see how the impact of EO Smith, because we're talking about Gene Smith, unless they haven't decided that.
One of the things that surprised me is that last year I was talking to the superintendent of EO Smith was the large increase in homeschooling that they had realized. And I'm not sure what the impact on our costs are in that scenario.
Yeah, that's another question. We have students who are homeschooled. How does that work for the school? Do we count the numbers or do we?
They're not part of our student population.
Okay. So for their curriculum and stuff, would they pay for that at home? I'm just curious.
Yeah, they're not counted towards the school, like.
I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying,
when you homeschool, it's you're financially responsible for your
You buy.
curriculum and your programming and your,
Okay.
it's your responsibility as a family.
Yeah, I never really heard how it works or what the workings are in there.
that you don't even need to purchase anything.
Yeah.
Connecticut, you can just
Right.
wing it.
Really?
Well, there's very, very little oversight on.
We did that for a few years. And then I outsourced their education. to the pattern schools. Outsourcing is all. Sorry.
I said, and they were great.
That's just because I did it.
No, I wouldn't say anything. There is a page in the Region 19 budget that goes through the projected numbers.
That's about a 6.9.
Yeah, I think next year is pretty similar to this year, right?
A little bit.
For increase.
Next year we stay flat, but it depends on what the other towns do, because if the other towns go down and we
Right.
stay flat, we still.
Yep.
Yeah, so next year, we stay flat, Mansfield goes down. Wellington goes down significantly, so we will.
Which means we'll have a higher share.
Right.
Right.
We'll get a second term in here.
Yeah.
Cindy, could you hold about 6 kids back?
Just comes out of it.
In seventh grade for next year. So this is for 23-20. So 41 in seventh grade right now. Yeah. 41. And this year's eighth grade as well. So, I think it's 32 this year.
Yeah, the Christina's point, it also depends on other towns, because
Yes.
they put everybody at file and we split it out, so. You know, even if we went down 5 students or something.
Right,
It
it
could
would-
also still go up, so, yeah.
Good point.
What you gotta do is get people to move into the other town, high school kids.
Cindy, how many kids do you think we're attracting this year to come into the school besides leaving the school? So you have 40 going out. Are you intending on some coming in? Some more kids coming in? Are there any?
Well, I mean, preschoolers,
Yeah.
is that we, yeah, I mean, we always have kids coming in through the preschool program.
Is it big? The preschool and kindergarten program?
Yeah,
It's big.
yeah, typically we have a waiting list for our preschool.
Always have.
Yeah.
Very question, and it's probably maybe more for the assessor. Do you have any idea how many of those homes that were affected by the foundation issue came back on the grand list at full?
I don't have any idea what that.
Is that more of the assessor problem? But that would have an impact as well,
That's right.
because that wasn't been more, that there's a lot of houses still in town that were affected by that too.
I think there were 22 last time.
Affected or back on the list? Affected.
But I know there are a number of projects going on in Burgess.
And I know of at least 4 that were completed within a year.
Yeah. So that brings them back up to full round.
But we would see that in the grand list.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
John asked about where that funds.
Yeah, and
came from.
if I understand correctly, where the grand list stands is, isn't it as of October 1st
Yes.
Yeah.
of the previous year?
of the previous
Correct.
year.
We don't get any state money for the, to make up for that, right? The state requires us to,
And
the state requires us to abate those taxes, but they don't give us anything to make up for that difference. They require us to reduce the value of the house
It's one of
until
those
the foundation. is built.
unfunded mandates.
Right, yeah.
But just add that nothing ever makes us homeowners whole.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I was gonna ask Gina and Cindy to clarify. The not lapsing fund, the request was for $80,006.02. That's the last email I got. Is that Jamie?
I sent a revised email on Monday asking for the entire 85,000 for information. To be moved.
Okay.
85,492.
Thank you.
That's representative of 1%.
Just for 1%.
Just a
That's
little,
more than 1%.
that's more than
A
1%.
little bit.
It is.
That's
Yes.
the entire non-spent money from last year.
So bottom line, the balance would be 0. So
Yeah.
just, yeah. The state.
Bill, it's not important, but just curious. What's a tree warden do?
He monitors cutting down of trees and that sort of thing. Evaluates the condition, historic value of the tree. If we're going to have trees removed, we defer to him to give us an opinion, looking at it from an arborist point of view.
I got you. And so from town property specifically?
Town property, basically. Or if we'll have a request for a dangerous tree that could affect town property or wires or whatever, we'll usually coordinate with Eversource and they in turn do that plan or whatever, but we usually try to give him a heads up where they're working and at least so he's knowledgeable of it. It's basically a volunteer position.
I was thinking that. And,
I mean. It's great.
pretty schedule.
Can I ask a question? For the, going back to the fund balance and CNR and percentages. So the unassigned. The money left over in the general fund. It's $2,417,422 as of 6/30/22. Right, that's what I'm looking at here. This is not-
2,071,000 because 300 is committed, so you
Oh.
can't use that.
Okay, so that's that 2 million number, and then to get that percentage that we're talking about, 12% versus 14 versus blah, blah, blah. What is the denominator that? Like, but what's the numerator, what's the denominator for that percentage?
It's basically that times your. Yeah. Your budget.
So the
Your
budget,
budget, yeah, it's your percentage of what for your budget.
and we're looking, and it's last year's, or the
Yes,
current year's budget,
yes, meaning current, yes.
and so that number that where we are right now. That percentage is supposed to be around, what did you say? It's about 14.3.
Great. So if you just did the general government budget. Based on, this goes by prior year audit. So it's gonna be your prior year budget, and that budget for the audit, 14,390,804. And what the difference between what you had was 15,160,728. It's what the transfers. So they don't account for the transfers to other funds. So that's where you get the 14.3. If you went on the 15, that's where the 13.6 comes in.
Right, okay, and so that's where the debate comes in and what the real number is.
Yeah. Yeah, so it depends which number you'd like to use.
Got it.
Well, there's an area in the audit report, I believe it shows it at 13.6.
Yep.
But that does not include $104,000 that is uncommitted, that's in other funds. So if you look at the total uncommitted funds, then it comes up with a 14.3.
In the Board of Education budget, the certified staff increase is 1.31. Sorry. In the Board of Education budget, the certified staff increase is 1.31. Is that largely because we've had higher step teachers retire and move on and lower step teachers take the place? and that's why we're lower on that end. But the medical insurance, how are we down 26%?
At the time that you do your budget, you base your medical premiums, your dental premiums on the current census that you have. So we start the process in November. So you typically use your November census and you make your best guess as to how many people might change, get married, have a child, get divorced, and kind of, that's subjective, but you make some adjustments, and then you calculate it based on your incomes. However, between that November and what your actuals are, and then the following year, when you go to do the next one, you have to start all over again. It's totally different. People leave district, they come back in, they don't take insurance, other people take the insurance. Some people who have historically never taken the insurance, all of a sudden need the family insurance. So it's really fluid. And that's part of why you see the differences. And just one other thing to look at is that prior to the implementation of our new payroll software, medical insurance was only calculated under 2 function codes. And now the new payroll system, because we're able to accurately attach insurance premiums to the position, which is broken out by other function codes, now it's spread out throughout the budget. So it looks like you're reallocating it when essentially it's just because that it's now tied to the position, which is how you really want it. It's a step forward for us.
So then are we really spending 26% less on medical insurance this year?
That is only in the regular ed
Right.
classification. If you go down and you look under the special ed, you're paying 26,000 more. If you look further to the next category of your support staff, you're looking at an additional 65,000. So no, you're not actually paying 266,000 less. It's just accounted for in different places. Because if you look at these other places, take for example, the support staff, you'll see that 19, 20, 2021 and 21, 22, there's absolutely no figures in there because during those 3 years, it was all accounted for under these regular education and the special ed education. I hope that helps.
And I think in whatever presentation you gave us, you added all those things and said, here's what benefits is doing.
That's correct. Early in the process, when we came in with our first, that's the estimate, yes, we put those all together. But the actual report has been broken down.
So basically the rate has gone up, but our number of people taking married family coverage versus single coverage has swung the fence.
No, it's,
Because the rate has gone up, right?
the rate is going up 20%, yes. It is 20%. I don't have the actual census in front of me, so I can't tell you how many family packages were based last year versus how many family packages are based this year. It's a fluid number and we make our best guess in November when we're trying to put this together. I can tell you that we do not have any placeholder for people to join the insurance this year. We don't have any included in the budget.
This is the stuff that drives me insane because you can't compare one budget year to another budget year line by line. Because every year there's a new GASB this, GASB that, and now this has to go to a different line, so now it shifts, and then we use a different software package and that clumps different things together. So there is no way for any of us, this is not a criticism of you guys, there's no way for any of us to have a linear path to follow to see how this stuff goes.
In the budget book that we're preparing for the town in April, we do have one chart that's all fringe benefits. So we've lumped it all together for you for 3 years. So in the presentation for the town, which is different from the individual software package, the ERP system, it is more clearly laid out for you. We're putting the finishing touches on that at this point.
Increase in insurance as a line.
That will show you, yes, our audited expenses for the last 2 years, what we had budgeted.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, if you use the audit, you can at least see what the trends are. And you can take these numbers and lump them together to then compare to all things. And you can see.
After all, you're a year behind them.
The town lines up with the audit, but not the school. They're different systems. When did you say you were gonna have those books in?
Not until for the,
Well, we can't finish the books until we know what our percent is.
Yeah, because Sherry had told me we need to get them out next week, so.
According
That's a
to the
new date
schedule,
for us.
it's April.
April 13th or
Yes.
something like that.
We have to
according
get
to
them
the
out ahead
schedule.
of time. for this.
That is
Correct.
ahead of time.
That is ahead of time.
And is EO Smith locked in at this point? Have they voted on that?
Huh?
Is EO Smith locked in?
No, they're not gonna vote on that till next week.
August 4th.
April.
I mean, well, I don't know what you're. I
They.
don't know the referendum. I mean,
No,
this is,
No,
has EO
they
Smith
adopt-
decided
no,
that they are.
Well,
They adopt their budget on April.
so the message I got was, we made some cuts last night, that lands Ashford at 5.1% increase for the region. We have a public meeting next week and the finance subcommittee will vote to move it forward to the board and they will vote at the BOE meeting on the board. That's a message.
Madam Chair, can I interject something on that?
Excuse me?
Is it okay if I interject something about that? When you are at the point of, you'll go to public hearing, you won't have the number in a reliable fashion at that point from the estimate. When you go to town meeting, we will have the number.
I remember they call it in every time we go to a hearing. It's like the last thing that happens.
So where are we in our timeline for being able to have a referendum at the same time as the E.O. Smith referendum?
I didn't understand.
Well, okay, so we're in a crunch.
Full time, okay.
So. Tonight we can discuss it and decide if we want to do anything or not do anything, and then, I have backed it up with a special meeting in case we had an issue where people wanted a little bit more time for the 27th. And then, the day after it goes into the newspaper for notice.
Mhm.
So,
So right now, we're still on schedule, as long as we complete everything.
as long as we complete it by the 27th.
So you're saying we're on schedule so far?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Sherry had sent me a note, going through last year's citizen cares, the legal notice in there for the budget hearing, and it says that copies of the budget would be available at the town website and outside on the porch. Your date, the letter was March 21st. The budget hearing was April 5th. So she said, in this year's April 4th, I think I'm changing my mind. About the talk, we were discussing this, and she said, I think you need to put the legal notice in copies of the budget by next week. So that's our clerk. I haven't seen this, that's in this statute.
I have a question for Bill.
Okay.
The transfer station is a $45,000 increase. One in wages for 20. And that, and the other one is disposal and hauling, so I'm assuming it's a contractual thing. What's the increase in wages?
That's for the new position that we're talking about, extra 20 hours.
Basically going from a partial position to a full-time position.
So we're gonna employ one of the people as full-time, what the idea, are we adding body up there, what are we doing?
Well, we have 3 people up there right now. One is on your official is a temporary position. They're doing less than 20 hours a week. What we're considering doing is advertising for 30 hours or less, probably possibly 30 hours or less, turning that person into what we call a utility person, work at the transfer station, do handyman work around all the buildings, and similar to what, I don't know if you remember John Boo.
Okay, so basically you're splitting the job is what we're doing.
That's what we're looking to do, it'd be under DPW in the transfer station. But also, we're not gonna require that person to have a CDL, but if we need emergency drivers for the smaller dump trucks, be able to utilize that person during bad weather and storms.
My opinion is, I don't see the need for a third person at the transfer station during normal hours.
You're telling me, and
I am. A lot of people know I have no problem telling them. But in that role, I understand if they're moving around.
yeah, one of the things that we're in the process of doing, you'll notice is work being done in the front entrance.
Yeah.
We're gonna tighten up on the duties of the existing personnel up there, verifying stickers and that sort of thing, and I mean, there's an awful lot of concern about people taking advantage of the system over there. We're gonna tighten up on that whole situation.
A valid concern.
Very well.
They used to have this guy that was there, who checked.
Stickers.
Order, yeah, the sticker.
Yeah.
he would check them, and he would take down their license plate if it wasn't happening and everything. And I'm sure he wasn't paid $60 an hour, probably,
Well, I think you got
Minimum wage.
13 or 14 an hour.
yeah. And he was happy with that, and then he wasn't there.
There were some extenuating circumstances.
I'm sure there were. But anyway, that was a good idea.
No, it is, and it's something we're gonna start enforcing a lot more stricter.
There's a new fence up here, nice, see, by the way.
What is it?
The new fence at the transfer station.
There's a new fence?
Parking money.
At the entrance of the transfer station.
Oh, okay. Usually open when I go in there. Didn't notice.
All right, I have to ask. Oh, God, John, keep your mouth shut. What function does the new fence serve at the transfer station that the old one didn't?
Besides the old one falling apart.
Yeah,
Able to lock it.
Yeah, it's going to close.
More stable,
Good
More
things
lockable.
make good neighbors.
A little wider too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
the other one was falling down and collapsing. What we're doing right now, if you notice, I don't know if you're there this weekend, but we're going to fill in that open area there and do a turnaround. If somebody doesn't have a sticker, whatever, eventually we're gonna have a booth there. Be a little turnaround or make arrangements to get a sticker for a temporary accommodation.
This is before you get to the swap shed, that area?
As you come in the gate, that area down there,
Yeah.
we're putting in a turnaround.
After you go down the hill.
No, right at the gate, right inside the gate.
We're gonna have to get clarification from her again. This doesn't make any sense to me. It says the public budget hearing is held 2 weeks before the annual budget meeting. After the public hearing, the board shall meet in public meeting to make a decision on the budget. The final proposed budget must be published in the local newspaper, one with substantial circulation. In towns with population under 5,000, this publication requirement may be waived by ordinance. These towns must print or make copies of the budget report equal to 10% of the town's population and have copies available at least 5 days before the annual budget meeting. That's what we got, Jeff.
That's where she got the 5 days would be next week. Be the third.
Yeah, that's why we're in the crunch.
Well, the public hearing is before.
There's an annual meeting. That you have the public hearing, and then you have the annual town meeting.
But is it supposed to be?
We used
before
to
the
have-
Town meeting or before the public hearing?
You have to have it before the public hearing.
The public hearing is held 2 weeks before the annual budget meeting.
Right.
When do the budget books have to be printed? Before the public hearing or before the meeting?
The copies,
So 5 days before would be the 31st, or the 30th.
so it's next week, because the 27th would have been Monday, so that's why she's saying next week.
Yeah. So your budget.
No, first we gotta get past that.
And then any adjustments.
So, just a point of order, where are we in the agenda right now?
So, I mean, it kind of got mushed up and everything.
It did, right? That's why I'm asking.
Just a little momentum.
What is where we are on.
Yeah, on the agenda.
So let's see. We done a little mixing of we're getting the clarifications for the budget. And we talked about capital improvement requests. And we have the Board of Selectmen's recommendations. So we're kind of hanging out in the new business area, A through D. I guess it falls into the old business too, because it's budget discussion.
Yeah.
I've got a question for the school. This is Jesse, by the way, Bell. I remember seeing a number for legal fees, legal expenses for contract negotiations, but I can't find that in the
I can
budget.
find
So
it
what
for you.
page is that?
Hold on, that's the next. If you look on page 8. At the top. That one is the meeting stipend DOE, and then it goes into the legal expense special ed and legal expense regular ed. You found it?
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
So on that, I just had a question. I remember there being talk that it needed to be raised up quite significantly for a contract negotiation.
We had contract negotiations this year, and we have contract negotiations for the second union next year.
Okay. But I remember hearing something like a side conversation that it was like not as big of a contract negotiation next year, like it was a lesser one,
It's another union contract.
another union contract.
It's.
So anticipated the same amount of legal fees.
Something else, yes.
Okay.
And again, people worked on it.
What about this? Maybe.
Sherry, you said, what was the amount? For these all this up together as
1.1 and
1.1. And I'm considering. we had all those, increases to the selectmen's budget.
I'm sorry.
I said, considering we had all the increases to the selectmen's budget, because we did have a substantial amount of money. On it, so it's still 1.1.
This, what, less than $20,000?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
What are you talking about, Catherine?
I'm saying the increase to the, you said the selectmen, but general government budget is only,
17,000.
17,000,
17,500.
No, we had,
which is 0.4 cents.
yeah, we had all kinds of additions though, right?
Right, because
Yeah.
that's utilizing the money saved from the last bond dropping off.
Mhm.
So
Which is
instead of
part of
that
the-
disappearing,
which is part of
we
the-
use that to
See,
fund all new stuff.
Which is part of the
Yeah.
budget.
Right,
That's what I was trying to
but
say
that,
before.
but it means that the increase isn't just 17,000 or whatever, yeah, whatever it is, it's 17,000 plus what we
Okay.
filled in.
210,000.
200 and, yeah,
If you remove debt service from last year and this year, and you compare that number, it's a 5.8% increase on the general account side.
yeah.
It
Just
just
like,
comes out as 0.46% because of that saving.
Because of the net.
Because of that.
yeah. But I just want to clarify that people are aware of that.
Mhm.
What was the percent increase on the town side last year?
It was large, it was
It's
like
about 8 or
10.
9.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was up there.
So can I just make a point to that thing that you guys are discussing? The debt, the future debt, the future bond was voted on at a special town meeting. Held at the school.
I was there.
The information was available for the public,
Mhm.
knowing that there was an impact statement that said, when we bond this, your taxes are gonna be impacted by X, Y, Z.
Very.
Roughly, but my point is,
It was in the ballpark.
right, my point is, Catherine, is that when the townspeople voted on it,
Yes.
it didn't matter that they didn't know that our debt load right now is gonna go to basically zero for all
Right.
intents and purposes, right? So they knew that even if it didn't go to zero today, they were adding whatever that number was. I don't remember off the top of my head automatically. They voted for it. If they didn't understand it, then,
Well, that's why I'm clarifying it now,
right. but what I'm
because they
saying
need
is
to
that-
understand
But what I'm
it.
saying is, don't punish Bill and Catherine because we paid down our debt. The people voted to put us back in debt, knowing what, I mean, with good reason, I understand that. I just don't think it's fair to the departments that, I mean, I don't think any department under them is like wildly spending money.
I don't think anybody
So-
talked about punishing anybody yet. I think we just were
Well, no, I
clarifying.
know, but what
How
I'm
the
saying
money's
is, there
spent.
seems to be this thing about the debt thing, and I just. I was at the meeting and I like, that's one thing that kind of shocked me, people didn't ask for more clarification about. What the actual impact is, because basically, when you vote to bond, you're voting for a tax increase, that's what you're doing.
Mhm.
It was 99 to 1.
Yeah, but see, like,
I
with-
wasn't the one, I couldn't. vote.
so Paul, and you can look at it the other way, so I understood it, I was there, I voted yes for it, but I thought it was a wash. Because I knew that next year that would be up, so I was thinking the wash, the 200 here, the 200 there. I didn't think that we would be putting it into our budget, and then down the road, we'd have the additional compounding. The future budgets.
Well, you knew it was a wash because of where you sit.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, so
Right,
to
but
me,
that's different than the general population, that's what I'm trying to say.
go ahead.
Putting my first selectman's hat on, is a little defensive of the town budget. I'd like to remind everybody that that service that the school's incurring is in my budget, our budget,
Right.
as well as the youth service director is in our budget.
Mhm.
There's about $30,000 to $40,000 in snow removal that's in our budget. These are a lot of things that the general public is not aware of. We take a beating for our increases on budget, but there's a lot included in our budget that is attributable directly to the school. And nobody's arguing about that.
No.
That's the way it's been and it's gonna stay. But for public knowledge, everybody says, oh, the town budget's going up such and such. Just keep in mind those things. There's a considerable amount of money in there.
No, I agree. And plus we have a lot of projects this year too, you know, you've got the oil tank, you've got the roofing project coming up, you've got, you know, a bus. You know, I mean, each part has its, you know, stuff that's being attacked on, the generator, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I think, it all adds up, is what I'm trying to say, so. Yeah, I'm not picking on you, Bill. And I wasn't punishing anybody, Paul, because I didn't
No,
come
no,
out
I'm
with
just saying
anything
that,
yet.
I'm not saying that we are.
I'm
saying
just
that
clarifying it
it's
so
a-
people
yeah, no, I
understand it.
understand, but I just, like, I feel like we sit here and talk about how, and none of us want taxes to go up, but I can't control the insurance expenses going up for the school or for the town or whatever, and fuel and all that stuff, but I just felt like we're not, and I did say, we are, we're kind of bringing it up because it seems like a big increase because the debt service went away. But I think in general, I know a lot of people that do that, right? They pay off their car, what do they do? Oh, I got $500 more every month, let's go to dinner, whatever it may be. I just think that the town needs the taxpayer needs to know that when they voted for that bond, they effectively voted an automatic tax increase. That's.
Actually, if I could take what you said about, I got $500 more, let's go to dinner. It's really, I got $500 more, let's go fix that thing that's been broken for a while.
Well, that too, right.
Well, that's what I was thinking, it would be more useful if you did temporary, like project with it, instead of, that way you would have it the following year, if you used it on a temporary basis, but we decided to put it into the budget. So it's not a temporary thing, it's gonna be always marked into the budget as moving forward, you just keep adding on to it. You know what I'm saying?
We do try to look at every budget anew as best we can. Things don't cost less. People don't get their salaries cut. You know,
Well,
that's
these
just-
aren't things
and you'll still keep the town running. We don't have backups for our positions. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And yeah, but by the way, after this building was built, there was no plan for any repairs. None, no maintenance. And so one of the things, for example, that full position in Public Works, painting, the repairs that we need in here and the other buildings. So there are reasons why the number goes up, and it's not frivolous at all. You know, we go through everything and make sure that we're not doing something like that. And I have to commend our departments for how they put their budgets together and what they look at. They've always been as frugal as they can be. You know, Bill's seen it for years, I've seen it for years. And they get challenged here and there, but by and large, they really put forth the minimum.
Especially Joe. I've heard some of the examples of what he's done.
Oh, yeah, it's for.
And, you know, we were kind of blessed because we got ARPA funds. We got money to fix things that we were absolutely unable to fix with our general government budget before. And our capital improvement budget, for that matter. So,
And the ARPA funds that are left, what are those gonna be used for?
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
There's ARPA funds that are left, what are those going to be used for moving forward? Do you have a plan for those?
We have several items that we're gonna be meeting on to discuss. As you know, we bring any plan that we have for that town meeting for approval.
But it
So
has,
we'll be bringing those. We've got a salary adjustment that we're going to be bringing to the town, where we had one particular employee that as a result of COVID, was cut drastically in your salary, because that's one of the things that we're doing, but there's a number of smaller items that we're addressing right now. In addition to that position that we're talking about adding, we're adding $10,000 to be paid for ARPA to help with some of these repairs and upgrades and everything. We've got a number of our exterior signs throughout town that are deteriorating badly. We've got one that's missing on Route 74. We intend on changing that. Those towns are running us about $3,500 a piece or more now. It's things like that ARPA has been a blessing, because we have never had the funds. You asked about that fence, John. That fence has been up probably 30 years. That if we didn't have things like ARPA funds, we would have never made those repairs. We put in split units at the tune of about $90,000 at Milton Hall. We're running on probably over 100-year-old boiler there that could give out at any time.
The converted coal boiler.
And
It is.
it
3 days oil.
So we've done that now, and we've taken the relief off of that. The only thing that's heating right now is just the foyer, and it's a backup unit. But those are things, upgrades with the fire department. We've made a number of upgrades there with ARPA money that, quite honestly, we would have had to go through the CNR fund if we didn't have any alternatives. There's been a number of things that the easy part is for us to defer things. If, we've done that for years in public works. Luckily, we've got a routine and a schedule now with roads, but I can remember a couple of roads that were deferred where we didn't have a chance to put a top coat or anything on. We had to completely rebuild roads. So it's a challenge on most parts, but for the most part, the ARPA funds have been a blessing.
And that fence may have been up for 30 years, but it's been pretty much down for 10.
Going back to the debt service, so the previous debt service primarily came from the new town hall and the new fire department, right? That's what
It's hard to tell, because back a number of years ago, we consolidated all of our bonds because we were taking advantage of the rates as they were. But those were big items that were involved in it.
It was
much more significant. I'm just trying to point out that like $5 million for a roof, where we're gonna get 60% back from the state, is a much smaller hit in terms of debt than a new town hall and a new fire department and a fire department.
even though we.
If you compare a new school expansion to a new town hall, the school expansion rent is a lot more money.
Well,
But
but that wasn't on
That
our,
was years ago.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's true. And then what I try to avoid is, and it's not healthy for any of us, to post the town government against the Board of Education. We're all in this thing together. We work as best as we can together. I think we do a damn good job at it. When you get to a point, well, this is I only brought it up because I keep hearing, well, the board is, the town government went up 8% or 9%. It's inclusive of a lot of things that we do, and we're happy to do it in coexistence with the Board of Education. It's not healthy for any of us to be posting the Board of Ed against the town government. Just shouldn't work that way, in my opinion. Even though Cindy and I are arguing all the time.
Thank you, Bill.
We took the words out of my mouth. Let's him speak.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's posting that two against each other. It's just a known fact that, the biggest part of the budget is the Ashford School. It always has been and always will. Smaller part is government. Government, the general budget, years I've seen struggle. Because, every dollar they had was taking care of the school, and it works. It always works.
It's gotta work.
But yeah, I don't think people understand that. There's a lot of funding outside of the school for the infrastructure that the money comes from. general government.
They work in tandem. You can't have a good town without a good school. You can't have a good school without a good town.
Yeah.
That is required.
Mm,
Keep writing. So what do you want?
Me, what do I want? It's a
Right.
group effort. I mean, I personally think that both budgets are too high. That's my personal feeling. However, I mean, the mill rate, because of other things that have happened, isn't that horrible. I'm just concerned about next year and the year after. Because I mean, we are adding across the board, additional people, additional benefits. These things go on. They don't go away and they only get larger, you know, so salaries grow, steps grow.
The school's not adding any personnel, right?
1.5, and then they had signs out for paras and teachers. I don't know how many you're looking
I don't
for.
have, we don't have any time.
Or substitute.
Somebody was putting on Facebook, make your own hours or whatever. I was like,
Not for the school.
No.
I
for
wouldn't go to
parents,
school.
surprise.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't pay attention
Would not pay attention to anything.
No, but there were signs, I guess, in front of the school.
Put a computer in front of the class.
It just says, no, it just says substitute needed. Because we have no subs.
And for us, it's half a person.
You can't have a person, you have a clerk, because you didn't have one last year, so you're gonna fill in that this year, the floater. And then you have the one at the
That was in the
transfer
budget
station.
last year.
That's what I'm saying, but they never had it.
Yeah, but it's still in the budget.
But the point is that you didn't have to pay the benefits because they weren't here last year. They will be coming hopefully this year. And the transfer station person. I don't know. We'll pick on everybody each. Christina, what do you think?
I think we should, well, first of all, I'm not seated tonight, so I don't.
Well, you still have an opinion.
But I think we should vote to approve the budgets as proposed and see where we are. That's what I would do.
Angie?
I'm a cheap one, but I agree. Go with the budgets. They've done a lot of work with it. I don't know where they cut. Let's go with the budgets.
Well, obvious.
No, not obvious at all. I do agree with you. The problem is, though, I know, because I get to do one of them, how much, you know, we work to get these down. I don't know that there's a lot more to take away from either one. I will say this, the school historically always comes up with some extra money at the end of the year. Which the town does too, but it really depends. They're a lot closer, but their budget is a lot smaller as well, so you have to take that into account. I'm not opposed to taking a little bit from both. If somebody wants to put a number together. But at the same time, I could go with what's here and as we did in previous year and hear from the town, and then make an adjustment from there. No, things are pretty tight budgets. I'm concerned with the town side. I'm not a fan. I said that about that half position. But understanding what they want to do with it, that makes a little more sense. Right on the school side. I always worry about the school because that number gets bigger every year, and it just means that every year you gotta match that number no matter what, and that's a big concern. So I'm not picking on the school, but you're the bigger chunk, and that mandate really hurt. If next year something happens and we pay a bill, we can't do that, we can't add that person, you're gonna have to lay somebody off. It doesn't hurt the town. But we can't say that to you. I can't go to the board and say, you know what, we're not gonna give you that $100,000, we're gonna cut you back $100,000, because then the state comes by and says, okay, well, you cut them $100,000, we're gonna fine you $250,000. Whatever, however they figure it out. Okay, that's an enormous challenge for us as a board. So that concerns me a lot. So that's where I'm at. Do you want a number from me?
Nope, I have something in my head, but I wanna see what everybody says. I'm sure it's a lot different.
Me?
Yeah,
I agree with parts of what you're saying, and actually everybody that said the budget's pretty tight. Yeah, I trust the people who are selecting. They work real hard, and just like you work on your budget. And so I'd be inclined to go along with what Christine said and vote for it as proposed.
You don't want me to start.
well, I don't think it really matters, because the majority is spoken.
Speak loudly.
So I hope you can follow my ADHD brain as I ramble through all this. Municipal taxes are the only thing that is not progressive. So state income taxes and federal income taxes are based on your ability to pay, your income, your disposable income, all those things are factored in. This is not. So we have a sizable portion of our population that is impoverished, and this will affect them because there's no income thresholds to protect them. So in the last budget, when we had the reval, it could have dropped the mill rate significantly more, but we used some of those savings and didn't drop the mill rate completely in order to eat that up. But the result of that is property taxes on apartments went through the roof. So rents went through the roof. So the people that were having a hard time already are having a harder time. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle because this is not a progressive issue, a progressive number. There's a lot of things to consider on this. A 1.1 mil increase isn't terrible. But at the same time, it's also, we're kicking the can when it comes to some of this stuff, because we know that this is coming up, this is coming up, this is coming up from all these different places. And a lot of that's outside of our control, and it's going to happen, and that's life. But we're going to hit a tipping point at some point where, how do you cover this when the taxpayers don't want to cover it anymore and they're paying 93% of this bill? But if we get it too far, we can attract business in if we want to attract business in, which doesn't seem to be a popular theme in this town. I don't know. I think ultimately we're gonna wind up either having to attract business here, or we're gonna wind up regionalizing. We're gonna lose the library. We're gonna regionalize that. We're gonna regionalize Parks and Rec. We're gonna have to do something at some point if we can't keep pace with some of this.
Yeah, so, I just think.
I could go on and on. It's just not worth it. Nobody wants to hear the doom and gloom.
No, but it's true.
I get a lot of crap for being hard on budgets, but the reality is, these are the things I'm thinking about. I'm trying to think 10 steps ahead and years ahead to not create pain down the road, even though it doesn't look like we're doing it now. So
But it's like,
I'm
right,
trying to do my best for the town.
right now are the needs and wants, right? So there's people out there trying to figure out how they're gonna pay the oil bill or put food on their table or, you know, I mean, yes, you can always say, well, we have these programs, but programs don't always work for everybody. You know, somebody could be just on that line. So. Yeah.
So listening to the presentations, I pretty much agree with all of the ideas of add this person, add that person, or this service. But then when it comes time to looking at the budget and the increase, I'm like in shock, like looking at the receipt after you walked out of the store and I can't believe I just bought all that stuff. But like as it was mentioned, the mill rate doesn't look like it's jumping that much up, but I do very much agree. What's been said about like, what are we doing, you know, down the road? And so to sum it up, I think we need to cut something. Some sort of a even threshold on both, but how much, I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah, so. That's what I was thinking of, cutting equally across the board. Cutting so that the school, Ashford School was at 2%. Not cutting 2%, at 2%. Take 2% from the town and the Region 19 already went down. And if we take all those numbers together, we get that 200 back so that we have it next year. And it all works out to so Ashford School would be getting additional 166, I believe. The girls check me out. Region 19 is going to be 177,948. And then Ashford General would take, I think it was 79 something. But that way it's even. When we can make up for that money that's gone. It's just that.
2% on general. 77,185 is the dollar amount.
What was the cut for the school?
The school was 2% also. I mean, not cut, to leave them 2%. So they're there are 3 point.
There's 3.61.
Yes, thank you.
So to bring us to 2%, it would bring us to $8,504,176.
What's the cut amount, the dollar amount?
38,000.
It's 130 or something, 134.
175 or 176.
Right, 176, so 3 round.
Yeah.
So
134,232. Oh, yeah. Eight.
To the 8638536.
Could you repeat those numbers?
Yeah, hang on.
1 second,
Thank you.
please. And so the increase would be 134,360. That's 2%.
Catherine, on the town side is 77,185 is what we gotta cut.
Okay. 3,859,350 and you have to subtract what?
77,185.
So that would decrease the town's budget by 1.5%,
That's correct.
1.55%.
Yes.
I know you're still working on numbers, and then I'm thinking, well, what would the effective mill rate increase be at that point?
And
And I know that's not right.
So it'd be. Click on this one. Obviously.
I have 0.5. Let's see, make sure.
Okay, so. 8584176. Right,
8504176.
so this is gonna be 2782. 65. So you're looking at point. So 32.79 minus. You're looking at 0.52.
So if you want to do the difference in somebody's tax bill, so the proposed budget, you take a median assessed value of 160,000. Under the proposed budget, that person's taxes will go up $186. Under the new scenario, that person's taxes would go up $87. So it's a difference of about $100.
Yeah, but that's a median, that is.
It is a way to look at it. It's not the only way.
It's such a small number of people would have that as their actual impact, because when we did this last year. And we, using the median numbers, the tax increase was, you know, a couple $100, and then my house, which is
Right, but
200 years old and falling down,
that
it's
was-
$1,000. I
That's
know
a
that, I know
revale
that.
year, so it's gonna swing much more in a revale.
Yeah,
The average person's taxes, they're all gonna go up 3.43% under the proposed budget. Under the second scenario, they will all go up 1.62%. So we'll be uniform this year because we're not having to revale unless somebody puts in.
Wait a minute, 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 could,
Don't worry
You
about
know,
it. Don't write it down.
you know, oh, forget it, just forget it.
About it. Hold on, we're still talking about it. We'll get you the actual information. Sorry to confuse you.
Would it be unfair to approve those changes as proposed without hearing from the town or the Board of Ed on what those would do?
Well, we have to hear from them. That's what it's about, the hearing.
But, well, right now, like if we were to vote right now,
So what you're doing is you're giving us one business day to come back with what the impacts are.
That's because we got the budget last Friday.
I think the budget cycle has been a little bit long.
You're also giving us one business day.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is,
And that's been there. You're also giving us a budget.
Yeah,
One business
One
day.
business day, and we, I mean. So, I mean, we had it
right,
available
Yeah.
for,
Why is it one business day? That's
because your next Friday is on Monday. So two.
To take your.
maybe 1.5. Oh, one.
Okay.
so that's not really fair. Kath,
Notice legal meeting.
We can't.
Right.
So-
You can do that.
Meeting.
all right, so we're hearing your side about how it's not fair,
Yeah, but
Well,
no, you're not
at the
giving.
beginning of the
It wouldn't
But-
physically be possible.
but we had the schools in January and we didn't get the general until last Friday because there were, black personnel, whatever, there were things going on. But anyway, it's not fair to have the board feel like they have to pass whatever you give us because
Nobody said that. Nobody said that. You're making a decision.
you're saying.
You're saying tonight that you would have us go back and look at whatever changes, of what the impacts would be.
Mhm.
And what we're saying is we can't even notice a meeting to do that before you have your next meeting. That's all.
So basically,
And we didn't give this last Friday.
if we, yeah, you're right, we did. If we.
What, the general budget?
General,
If
not last Friday.
If we voted on something or asked for something, and I not even voted on, we said this is what we want to do. And ask for the impact, we would have to push our referendum. That's the
Right.
line.
Right.
Yeah, so you'd have one per EL Smith, we could do EL Smith and then you could have
What's the
one.
referendum cost right now, Bill?
4,200 at least.
5,400 last time. we were.
5,400.
What? I can talk.
Mhm.
What I'm gonna check with council is if I can call a emergency meeting for Saturday morning.
It doesn't qualify for emergency meeting.
I think.
So what do you suggest, Catherine, that we should do?
I will check, I will, whatever your bottom line vote here. I'll make certain recommendations to my board and then discuss those with them. And get back to you as soon as we can. If it ends up having to push it to another referendum, you all know I've been trying to avoid that because it is a significant cost. It's a major burden on our registrar of voters and our town clerk's office, but if that ends up being as a result of what we have to do, we'll do it.
It's $5,400 that doesn't go for something else.
We haven't voted though, have we?
No.
Okay, so we don't
Your
even know
vote's not
what,
till next week.
we don't know what. If we go with those, whatever.
Right, that's what the meeting is for.
Well,
Say it again?
that's what this meeting's for. I mean, we could, and then, you know. Cause they can't change it anyway, but, I mean, I don't wanna feel like we're pressured into making a decision because of a schedule. But we have to act either that or split them up, split the referendums.
I would appeal to you to make some sort of a decision tonight. I'm not gonna go to my board and go through all this with hypotheticals.
Can I make a motion to accept the budget as presented? Can I do that?
You can.
I know how.
Second.
Is that John Kopek speaking to make the motion?
For once, it's not.
Everybody's talking together. it's just impossible.
Louder.
It's Garth Bean.
I think that we have to get the numbers,
Did
You
anybody
have them on
second?
the sheet.
Yes,
so.
Oh, Angie.
Angie second.
Did you hear that, Valerie?
So Garth Bean moved to accept the proposed budgets and Angie DeSanto seconded that motion.
Correct.
Right.
Got it.
Okay.
And to be clear, because it could be confused, right, which proposed budget are you putting forth?
As presented.
As presented.
The 3.61 for the school and the 0.46 for the town.
All those in favor?
Well, can we discuss first?
Yes.
So the one thing I want to point out is what makes this impossibly hard for everyone in this room is the turnout that we have at budget referendums. That so few people turn out that we are trying to read the minds of 3/4 of this town that don't show up to vote. That we're trying to protect them. Maybe they don't want to be protected. Maybe they don't show up to vote because they're perfectly happy to pay more taxes. Or it's the inverse, or they don't want to feel like they're voting against this or for that. So it's impossible for all of us to try to figure out what happens when there's so little civic engagement.
The one thing too to point out, though, I think if we would have to split the referendums, right, that we run the risk. Because once you start having more votes, then you get lower turnout. You run the risk of budgets failing when you do that. So it's just another thing to keep in mind. Not like nobody wants that.
Well, I suggest we vote, and then if it goes down, then we negotiate, maybe not 2%, maybe 1.25%, or, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's what it's
That's what I'm
about.
saying.
Negotiate.
So,
But I don't think it was fair that, we've come to this point in the game and not have the information. Like, I just, you know, it feels like we have to be pressured to make a decision that didn't necessarily have to be this way.
To throw another monkey wrench into it. And Paul, don't you have to recuse yourself from voting on the general government?
No.
No?
And neither, and you don't have to recuse yourself on voting on the general government, well, the school. We got a legal opinion, you know, when you joined them.
oh, a lawyer.
Legal isn't a lawyer.
Legal isn't. Shall we vote? Are we ready?
Call the motion.
Okay, time. Yeah.
We just did.
I know. Just did.
Are we done with discussion?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Mansfield?
Yes.
I can't vote, I'm not seated. Oh,
Forget about it.
All those in favor?
It's not.
Yes, Garth.
1, 2, Garth, Angie. Paul, are you in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, so Garth and Angie
Said we could accept it.
in favor? All those not in favor?
Okay,
So ugly.
Paul, John, Jesse, and Judy not in favor.
So given where we are in the timelines and all that.
Who is that?
Who's that?
Hugh,
Yes,
That's
you-
you. Hi, Hugh.
Hi, hello.
You just popped up out of nowhere.
I've been here since 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Probably came up.
Did you have something you wanted to add? to the
If I was
conversation?
seated, I would have voted no. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So motion did not pass.
right, so if, given where we are in the process and trying not to spend more money on another referendum, what would the mill rate be at a 60,000 reduction for the Board of Ed and 25 for the town?
I'll pay for that.
$16 drop on the school, and 25 drop on the town.
85, and then Will Smith, what am I, or how much on the sounds about half?
25.
It'd be like 125. That'd be half of them.
That's 25 and 55?
60 and 25.
John, can I compromise? We'll find off the town instead of 25.
I'm just, I'm not even necessarily opposed to the 1.1.
Well, neither am I.
I'm just trying
That's why
to,
I'm asking.
Yeah. I think given where we are in the timeline, that's such a significant.
No.
Only because I'm trying to,
Just trying to cushion for next year.
right, so. None of us are opposed, I don't think,
But you voted
to.
no.
Yes,
Isn't that
right.
opposing?
Hold on. None of us are
Yeah, you-
opposed to
Misunderstanding what he's.
the concept of spending the money on these things as much as it's a matter of opposing the impacts of spending those monies. It's not, you understand what I mean?
536.
For some reason, not really. Because I think that they're kind of one in the same.
It's,
But I respect your opinion. I mean, you're a smart guy. Look at it. I think it's easy to look at only numbers and not think about what they really might represent. The one thing that's easy to think about what $20,000 represents is, so that person, the extra person, half-time person, and the maintenance and the job that person would do, that maybe is something that I can easily in my head, but when it comes to the school, I have no idea. And I think that, I mean, I've been on some of the school board meetings, but, and then.
So, but you can't think of that 20,000 as that person because there might be someplace else where, you know, they're probably.
I understand, but I'm just saying, there's one thing.
Right, no, but what I'm saying, he's trying to think of that cut as that person, what is it not a city bet, because. All we're saying is that if we took that, if we said, and he's saying, well, the school cut 60,000. It may not be a person, it might be, you take a little bit from different lines, just like that's what you're gonna do too, right? Like you're not gonna take, well, maybe you will, I don't know. Go ahead.
He keeps talking, they take it off from the fire department. No, just.
The 25,000 on the town and 60 in the school, you're looking at 0.87 increase.
And so that, again, the median homeowner, their taxes will go up by $146 under that scenario versus $186. So it's a difference of $40 to the taxpayer. But it's the difference of $85,000 to the budgets. Correct.
Bring us to 2.89.
so the reason why I picked roughly those numbers is the idea of bringing the Board of Education down to 2% and whatever it was for the town, what was it, 1.5% decrease for the town was one of the other ideas. Given where we are in the timeline, I can't make those kinds of changes without having some sort of feedback to understand that impact, because those are going to be significant impacts. So I'm trying to come up with a number that I think can make a reasonable adjustment on the mill rate, but at the same time that I think we can absorb without devastation. That's the way I can describe it.
It's a fair assessment.
Do we have an accounting of what we asked the two boards to go down last year? Didn't we vote on having,
Yeah, last year
it
was,
was 1% each?
yeah, last year wasn't much.
But they had to go down 1%. So we did have them go down 1%, okay, from what they have.
From the proposed increase.
Yeah,
Not down 1% from what they had, just 1% less than what they wanted to increase by,
okay,
which is pretty much the same thing.
yeah. Because every time I've been on this board, many years. We've always decreased it. We never said go for what they have. It's true.
The 60,000 represents a 0.72%,
0.7?
0.72.
I was gonna say less than 1%, I think. Could be something to present.
But in their defense, their increase was far less than what they asked for last year as well.
What are you talking about?
This is a
Yeah.
3.61 increase, and last year it was 4.
4.21.
So
Well,
they're all.
That's what it ended up to be, but it was originally like 7.6 or
That's what I'm saying, their initial
6.7.
increase was a lot higher, so. That's why I said, I know that the budgets, people have worked hard on.
Does someone want to make a motion on this one?
I do. That's Angie.
Driving his car.
We still have you. Is he taking notes now?
He's
No,
driving,
I can see it.
he's driving it.
Driving his car.
Hey, John should.
Well, I just wanted to have another perspective between leaving it alone and taking the other, it's not a straight.
Did I get a
percentage, so-
second?
Well, did you make a motion?
No,
Motion, I heard her.
I didn't hear what the numbers were.
In what dollar?
Yeah, I believe it.
You could be a second.
No, 25, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I suggested 25 and Paul had suggested 20.
So we can
But I
go
want to clarify, what's the motion? That's the question.
whatever she said. I said, I do. Didn't you say something?
She did. She calculated the number.
Yeah, so Jonathan printed, she says, 60 off the school and 25 off the town general.
And I make that motion. Did anybody second?
I'm sorry, it was 60 and 20, right?
No.
No,
That
yeah,
was
he's
25, because Paul had asked about
Yeah,
it,
he's trying to.
which is why I haven't put any numbers, in. I had to put it into the motion.
Oh, my God.
That was the best response all night.
It's trying. Do you want it to be? Do you want it to be 20 or 25?
Yeah.
So
You want
here's, so I'll ask the question. Would,
Wait a minute, I thought the calculation.
What is the motion?
there is
There
none
is
yet.
a-
We're getting there.
There's not one yet.
The calculation I did on the 25, and then you've
Yeah,
been bantering
yeah.
back and forth with
That's
this
the
one.
question, that's the confusion. My fault, imagine that.
So does the town think 20,000 would be absorbable?
20 or 25.
I'm saying 20. I'm saying 20, because I put a number out, I've gotten feedback, I'm negotiating. Is 20,000.
For the board, I think we could do that.
I rescind
We
my
would have to
approval.
go over that.
Okay.
So what what would 60,000 do to the Board of Education? Obviously, they're not here to weigh in on that, so I'm not asking for any kind of opinions representing their thoughts, but
You are.
I
That
am.
is, out of the 1.5 positions, that's approximately the 0.5 position. If that's where we chose to make the cut from. There, it's up to the board, obviously, but that's what it would represent.
I don't think those are unreasonable requests. Honestly, there's a lot of, in both budgets, there's some room somewhere else.
Right, my hope is that instead of eliminating a position or doing something like that, that these are numbers that are close enough that, okay, Maybe we can take a gamble on a couple thousand for HVAC expense or this expense or whatever that we can. Hopefully, take a few gambles on them, and we usually finish with this much surplus at the end of the year. So hopefully some things work in our favor and it's close enough without
Yeah.
undoing progress and plans for progress that honestly, from both the town and the Board of Education, their ideas for what they want to do to move everything forward, they're great.
If we can't find 20,000 in a $3.8 million budget, we're in a lot of trouble.
So then I will make the motion to reduce the proposed Board of Education budget by 60,000 and the town budget by 20,000.
Did you hear that, Valerie?
Yeah, yes,
I'll second it, Angie.
So.
I don't do that.
They what?
No, actually, no,
No, they don't.
We don't,
No.
we give you a dollar amount
Yeah.
to spend. So how you do it isn't up to us. So I don't think we need to see.
So you're
those
saying
changes.
you're taking your vote that you were gonna take on Monday, you're taking tonight.
Correct.
Exactly.
Right.
So that we can get it in the.
Like I said, my
chronology.
hope is that these numbers can be found within your budgets without having to call special meetings and try to get all the boards, all the people together to try to show us what this would.
And you're still gonna have a public hearing.
Yes.
Right, that is correct. And we can adjust after the public hearing.
But I'm hoping at these numbers that it makes it achievable.
And it should still be under a 1 million.
Yeah, it's 0.88. There wasn't 0.01.
Yeah, it's not a big
It's-
difference
no.
between scenario 3 and scenario 4. Yeah.
Do we have a vote yet?
You have a motion and a second, no?
Oh, so we had a
Still
motion.
talking.
All those in favor?
I,
You could.
I would, but I can't.
Okay, so, votes unanimous. Vote. I need the figures.
who voted for,
And, Angie, Paul, Garth, John, Jesse, Judy.
So if I understand correctly. The Board of Selectmen will have to decide where that gets applied in order to get it into the budget books that go out for the public hearing. Which have to be out, beginning of next week?
I think the end. Yeah, the end of next week,
5 days.
5 days before. The problem is the special meeting was for Monday because we have to get the notice in the paper by Tuesday.
Right,
So that's why,
actually, it said you were going to, we were gonna vote.
I think we probably need to check with Sherry.
clarifications, oh, yeah, it
When
was
those
on the,
votes actually need to be. available.
so hang on, guys. It wasn't, yeah, I don't know if we can do this because it wasn't on the agenda.
As a special, today's a special meeting? or
No,
that's a regular meeting?
Monday's a special, but this wasn't, well, the discussion was and the recommendations were, but the vote was not.
That's what I was saying.
Can't we vote to add it to the agenda?
We can, we have the Monday meeting that has the agenda.
This is a regular meeting.
It's a regular.
It's a regular meeting, you can
So we
make a
can add
motion
to-
to amend your
We don't
agenda.
want to.
Okay, so let's add it to the,
I'll make a motion to add the.
You need a motion. to add
can you
the
do that,
agenda.
Catherine, or is that not good?
No, you-
Well,
You're just shaking your head.
well, I'm shaking you at my head because that's something you would have done before you took a vote. Okay, that's just.
So
you know,
it was
looking
an
at
afterthought.
What you have on your agenda
I don't
and
really know
doing
that.
that. You do it however you think you want to do it. It's up to you.
Okay, so it was an afterthought. We're learning as we go.
I don't think-
Been on the board a long time.
Oh my goodness, Catherine, you never end. Okay, so somebody want a motion to add the vote for the
I'll
budget
make that motion
onto the agenda?
to add the budget vote to the agenda.
this is Jesse, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did you?
Everybody voted, Valerie, Angie, Paul, John, Garth, Jesse, myself,
Okay.
to add it to the agenda.
So just a question on the sequence of all this then. So what goes in the paper next week is not the individual budgets themselves.
Right.
Right,
No,
which you
just-
don't have to have this worked out in order for that to,
But we do need to put something out. for
We're
the
gonna,
public.
we're gonna work it out internally. You, as far as publishing your notice, Steve, public $100.
right, that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, by making the adjustment, we are not putting additional burden on you guys
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
well, so the only way to not do that is just give the budget. the way it
Well,
goes.
no, I'm just letting you know that you are, okay?
But you don't have to
Whenever you
resettle
present
them.
Your budget at public hearing, you have to have this. And
Right.
that has to have in it reflected what you voted on.
We have to
So
have
you
it-
have-
But
we
how
have to
much
make
time
sure
do you
he
have
gets
to make that happen?
Excuse me, we have to make sure you get it in there. And the board of selectmen speak with each other, have a meeting. And then from that, you put the changes in. And then
Make it work.
that is gotta get printed.
Make it
And,
work.
That's,
and
I'm
posted.
asking for the timeline.
But that's
for that.
5 days prior to. You got 5 days prior to the hearing, right? Isn't that what I read before? That,
I don't know what you read before, because I couldn't hear you.
I think it has to go
We
out
used
by
to
the
have,
end of
we
next
used to
week.
publish
So
this.
here,
So it has to
here's
go
what-
out the end of next week before the 4th.
according to the budget
At
calendar,
the end of the week.
the budget books don't have to be available until April 14th. So is there an error in the budget calendar or what's going on?
Probably an error.
Let's-
Last year, too,
Right,
because there was panic from the superintendent.
Right.
And it was basically that this first.
Well, that
budget
was-
book Is really
Well, that's
just
why
the
you-
bottom line number, what's up.
The panic was because of disinformation in a meeting. We were supposed to have those books that night. That was the night we were supposed to have them. But we didn't because there was a misinformation.
But it was because it's not on that calendar that Paul's looking at.
We used to have it on the calendar. I don't know why it's.
So I know right now-
It says on your calendar that the town budget books would be available to the public on Friday, April 14th.
That's for the town, annual town budget meeting.
Right,
That's not for the public
But there's
hearing.
no other budget book on that calendar, and that's why everybody gets confused.
So
Now,
in
sorry to interrupt.
here, it says
you have this.
the town must print copies of the budget report. Equal to 10% of the town population and have copies available to the public at least 5 days before the annual budget meeting.
Meeting. Right, the meeting, not the public hearing.
Right, because this could still change at the public hearing.
100%
That's
correct.
correct.
Yes,
So before we go any further, though, because we kind of got it messed up there, do we want to redo that motion and vote or redo the vote on that? Or are we comfortable with,
I wouldn't bother.
I'm just asking, I'm asking the chair, honestly,
to redo,
redo the vote on the budget. for 60.
yeah, because we don't want any complaints that we didn't
We want
follow
it to happen after it's
sequence.
on the agenda.
So Jesse,
Because that'll be the next thing.
Jesse had to go use the restroom.
Now we can-
Get to redo?
We get a
Thank you, the dual,
So a motion to rescind the vote
Yeah.
on the budget
yes.
and then a motion.
with a second, and then we can
Move on.
knock that out and then make it again and do what we're gonna do.
I think you did an adequate job of correcting your error.
Which
If
is
you
what,
want to go back and.
We can just
go back
redo
and
the
Undo
vote.
it and then redo it.
it's gonna take 30 seconds.
I want
and
to do it
the time
efficiently.
sequence is 100% correct.
Doesn't erase the other stuff. huh?
Yeah, it doesn't. Your other motion is gonna be
It's
out
gonna be
there.
really confusing.
Oh, how can I make a motion to erase?
Yeah,
Yeah, but you still have that one person that'll say,
Right. So how do you want to do this then? You want-
So I'll make a motion to rescind the, because so anybody on the winning side of
Well, everybody's on the winning
Right,
side, right?
so can make a motion to reconsider. So I'm making a motion to reconsider that and withdraw it.
I
And she
second
has
it.
to know what to write down.
So Valerie,
Needs a bonus for this meeting.
Valerie, yeah, it's kind of messy. John's rescinding the vote to accept the budget as is because we had to add it to our agenda. So he made the motion to rescind that vote and I second it.
Well,
All those in
do we have
favor?
a second?
Aye.
Yeah, no, Judy said.
I second it.
I.
Aye.
That was I.
We're all ayes. It passed unanimously. Angie, Paul, Garth, John, Jesse, and myself.
I'm making that motion.
Anybody else want to make it instead of me?
Nope.
Motion to reduce the Board of Education budget by $60,000 and the town government budget by $20,000.
Second, Angie.
John first, Angie second, Val.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
I got things to do.
Feels later than 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Point of order,
Um,
Madam Chairman. Your next meeting is on the 27th.
Well, we don't have to have one now if we voted, but we need to vote, I believe, right?
So when is your next meeting?
I got it. Hang on one second, Judy. The next regular meeting is April 2nd. Oh, I'm sorry, March 30th.
April,
A week from today.
A week from today.
yeah, March 30th.
Can I just ask that you make sure that consideration of the CNR fund is on your agenda, as well as consideration of transfer of the Board of Ed. And also your consideration of transferring, reducing your undesignated fund balance. To compensate either 11.5, whatever you guys decide on, but I think that's a point of business we're gonna have to get behind us. I mean, then the Board of Selectmen has made a recommendation, we'll give you figures for 11 or 12. If you end up in between that or whatever you decide, that's at your discretion. The thought was to leave money in the CNR fund for next year's goal.
Yeah, I think the next one, let's see.
Yeah, it's a week from.
Come on, I just want to read this, the special meeting and make sure that I didn't put anything else on there. A minute. So the agenda for that was, the, town budget 2023, Board of Finance adopts the proposed budget. And Board of Finance sets date and approves notice for hearing. So we need to do the approval and notice for hearing though
All
now.
right, so I'll make a motion to add to our current agenda to set the date of approval for public hearing to tonight's agenda.
Okay. I'll second that.
Who's that?
Paul.
So Paul,
Who seconded? You know,
Paul added. Paul added,
could you repeat the motion, please?
yes, ma'am. Paul added, for the board to set the date for the, notice for public hearing. And I second it. So Paul and Judy. We actually should set the. We have it as, what, The 4th. We have it for the 4th.
Yes, we do have it. But we gotta vote on that.
No, but she needs the motion.
Oh,
So
oh,
it's setting the date for April 4th.
And she's the treasurer. And then the other woman. Oh, okay.
For public hearing.
So,
We're just identifying who's.
yeah, that's all. But are you Cheryl?
Sherry.
She's the new.
No.
Are you okay, Val?
Not really. I'll have to listen to the recording because it's just so confusing.
So what we're doing now is, we're setting the date for April 4th for the public hearing.
Okay,
Paul motioned, I second.
okay.
And so now we're going to, motion for accept or reject, whatever. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All those opposed?
April 4th.
Abstained. It passed, Valerie,
Okay, got it.
with everybody. Okay, so
Just so I'm straight. My next regular scheduled selectmen's meeting is for Tuesday morning. So I have time to get those and do it on Tuesday morning and get those figures to you.
yeah, so.
So my thing was, Christine was very adamant that I had to have, the information to her Tuesday, so she could put it in the Chronicle. I don't know who's gonna do that now.
All right, I was gonna make after your meeting with her. She is home. And I talked to her last night, she's doing better. She says, I've got a list an arm long of doctor's appointments coming up. But she asked me if she could have tomorrow. I said, Christine, of course you can have one. So she is determined to be in on Monday and Tuesday. I'm insisting we play it by ear, but I think we'll be okay.
If she is not in on Tuesday and you need assistance placing that ad, let me know and I will come over and do it for you.
Thank you very much.
You're
You
welcome.
know how to do it? You know how to do it?
Yeah.
I offered to, but I didn't know how to do it.
I do.
You guys.
I do so.
Okay,
Something in my wheels.
See you, Angie.
I just don't wanna get in trouble.
Good
with
seeing you
Christine,
again.
just- She said, make sure you do it, so.
I like that.
We'll table it again.
Yeah,
Oh, Angie, before you go, make a motion to end the meeting.
Well, is she up?
No, we're not there.
Are we all up?
Hang on. Let's give me 2 seconds.
You can do it from
It's
home.
non-debatable. It's a non-debatable.
Can we make a proxy motion on his behalf?
How are we gonna end the meeting?
Well,
I'll make the
well,
motion.
Angie just left at,
Angie had to leave.
Angie left at 10:09, that's all. Okay, so the items for the next meeting on March 30th will be, to talk about the CNR. The transfer to the BOE of the, unassigned balance. And
Non-lapsing.
non-lapsing, what was the other one? There was 3.
The appropriation to CNR, making a decision on what you leave for percentage in
We
your
also have to vote on,
undesignated fund.
we should probably, do we have to vote on the capital amount, the capital projects?
You haven't passed.
Right.
And,
That doesn't impact
capital
the
projects, Valerie.
Money, so
It does not impact the mill rate.
capital projects.
So those 3.
But that doesn't
CNR.
have to happen because that's like part of the public hearing, right?
Yes. It should be commented on.
Yeah. I just wonder if it has to go in that newspaper notice.
I'll check with
Very
her.
good question.
I think it's just considered of the overall budget.
Are you okay, Valerie?
I'll be okay once I listen to the recording.
Okay, so we're talking about for the next meeting's agenda, to discuss the CNR. The transfer of the non-lapsing money for the Board of Ed. And the capital projects. Okay. Last thing is, remarks for the good of the board.
I don't think, yeah.
See you tonight.
Good night.
She's just gonna curl up on a sofa somewhere. It's the night.
Thank you guys for looking into the work.
Night, folks.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Night.
Hopefully we won't get,
You're not gonna, are you gonna have a motion to adjourn?
yes, ma'am. Anybody have a motion since Andy left?
So moved.
Okay, Paul motion, second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Paul motion, first, Valerie, Jesse
Yeah.
was second.
Yeah.
and vote
Okay.
passes. I don't know.
My notebook's too small, I can't even.